Do you feel that in a time when we are more connected than ever, we are drifting away from real human connections, especially to ourselves? I do. Hi, I'm Leticia Latino, and I want to invite you to join me and my very inspiring guests in exploring ways to reconnect to your essence, to your definite purpose, to what makes you tick. Are you ready? Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Back to Basics, Reconnecting to the Essence of You. As you heard in my last solo episode, I'm back. I'm recharged after a couple of weeks out, just reconnecting to my essence. So I'm very excited about the guests that I'm bringing to you in this new season of Back to Basics. And what better person to start that Yitzi Weiner, who is a journalist, author, and the founder of Authority Magazine, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with. He's also the CEO of the Thought Leader Incubator, which guides leaders to become prolific content creators. He's written 5 books, and he created a super successful series that it's called 5 Things I Wish Someone Told Me. Hello, Yitzi, and welcome to Back to Basics.
Hello, Leticia. It's a pleasure and a delight to meet you. We met through email. Now it's a delight to meet you face to face.
Absolutely. Well, I always say that's one of the most amazing things that has happened to me throughout this podcast is that I'm meeting so many amazing people outside my industry. I've been in telecom for 20 years. So I welcome the change of pace and meeting, people that are exciting. And I mean, you lead a thought incubator. So that I can imagine that I could talk with you for hours, but I know you also will inspire my audience because I know you're also an educator, an orator, a teacher, a rabbi. I mean, I know we can unpack a lot of things. So I want to start at the beginning. Tell me about your childhood, your origins, the origin story.
Sure. So I grew up in Los Angeles, California. I lived there till I was a teenager, and then I went to school on the East Coast. Okay. I initially came to Baltimore, Maryland, because I wanted to become I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to become an oncologist.
Okay.
And then I realized as I was, in the course of my studies, that my main impetus was I wanted a career that would be focused on helping people and making a difference. And then I realized that I discovered that I had strengths in teaching. So I became a teaching rabbi. I became a rabbi, and I was a rabbi I am a rabbi, but I was an active rabbi for 15 years. Okay. And eventually, as my family grew, it was time for me to find another career. Mm-hmm. And so thank God we started Authority Magazine and Thought Leader Incubator, and I've been very blessed.
Wow, that's great. But, I'm famous for going back into this, like, okay, an oncologist, and then you became a journalist and a writer. Was that something that was a passion? Like when you look back at your childhood, would you say, yeah, actually I had that in me and I didn't notice until later, or just that show up?
Sure. So I think that my main drive was I wanted a job that would be dealing with people, interacting with people, dealing with actual people face to face and helping to inspire and uplift. So I thought that would be manifest in becoming a physician, but then it ended up becoming an educator, but now as a journalist. But the truth is they're really all the same, and that I'm trying my best to be a force for a positive influence. I want people to feel a little more uplifted and to spread a little more light. So I think that's the common thread between all those things. Wow. And even though I'm not an educator, but I feel like I'm educating through my writing and the content that we're creating.
Well, you definitely are, because, I am a big fan of your content of Authority Magazine, and obviously was very, humble when I got the chance to share my writing experience, which is a little bit out of the left field for me in terms of writing. But you definitely achieved that in terms of inspiration. And the amazing thing, what you just said, is I knew I wanted to help to inspire and uplift people. So it's almost like you had the ability to visualize something at a much bigger level or higher level than most people, and then how you got there was almost like second to that vision. Would you say that that is true in a way?
Yeah. So the truth is, I don't think I initially envisioned that I would be doing this, but like you said, yeah, and I don't think I was, I did anything out of the ordinary, but I had this like, I always had this major compelling feeling that I wanted to have a career that would be meaningful, that it wouldn't just be about making money, but it will be about making a difference and helping to, whatever way I can to help bring a little more light, a little more positivity.
That's good. And I'm gonna ask a question that I don't know I don't know if I should ask, but I hear a lot of people that have that same intention, and they say I want to make a difference, but how do I pay the bills?
Right.
And that's part of why this podcast exists, is because I want people like you sharing your message about, that worried me too, but I did it anyway. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure, 100%, and that's really kind of my career story. I started as a rabbi, and I wasn't making enough money, so I started initially as a career that was primarily about helping people, and initially it was enough, but as my family grew, it wasn't enough. So then I had to shift to finding a career that would primarily would pay the bills, but then I said, okay, how could I turn this into a way that could make a difference? So I think, to answer your question, again, I don't think my story applies to everyone, but I think really ultimately you could really turn almost any job, I think, into a way that's making a difference. I think because you're always dealing with people. I think you could almost turn any career into a way that will, let people feel a little better about themselves.
That's inspiring. I definitely think, as I've interviewed musicians, and I'm gonna interview actually this week as well a famous, well, almost famous movie star, and then a film director, and all these types of stories, and they all kind of have the same thread, which is resiliency and learning to stand up when things don't go your way, and almost like taking a leap of faith, like believing in yourself and saying, I can do this. And has your own business, like I'm sure that Authority Magazine has grown in ways you never imagined. Is that the case?
I'm very blessed that, particularly over COVID, over the pandemic, which has been hard on everyone. But in terms of our readership and our reach, we've actually grown a lot. So yeah. So thank God it's grown a lot. And so, but back to your point about resilience, and that's absolutely true. For me, in my scenario, I think it's mostly been about having, I have a wonderful wife, and having somebody that could encourage you when things aren't going the way you want. Just having somebody that you share your life with, and yeah. So for me, in my situation, having my wife's encouragement and her support, her belief in me, that really made a huge difference. I think that I wouldn't have been able to do it, even just simply from a courage standpoint, if I didn't have her. So I think that was a major influence for me.
Wow.
Having a strong spouse, someone who loves you, who cares about you, and to encourage you and support you.
That's great. That's great to hear. As a woman, that's great to hear, because a lot of us complain that our husbands, and I don't include mine, I am lucky too, but that they don't give you enough credit. So I think that men like you are, very admirable, and it's great in all this movement and all these women count, that to hear something like that is very refreshing. So I'm very happy that that's the case. And I agree 100% with you. So you, through your magazine, have conducted or coordinated over 4,000 interviews, all of them empowering in essence, and to many famous people. What are some of the insights or wisdom of nuggets or anything you want to share in terms of the people you've had the opportunity to interview?
Sure. So the truth is, actually, I think I have to update that bio. I looked at it recently, and it's between me and, not just me, but the whole team at Authority, we've done more than 20,000 interviews.
Oh my God. Yeah. That needs updated. Oh, wow. That's 5 times more.
Yeah. So it shows a lot of it happened, maybe half of it happened in the past year. So I recently I think I mentioned this on another podcast, but I'll say it again. I just recently interviewed Kathy Sullivan, she's the first woman astronaut to do a spacewalk,
Wow.
and she made news that same person also recently went to the deepest part of the ocean, like I think it's called the Challenger Deep, like the deepest part of the ocean. And I was interested in that. And we have a whole series actually of women in space because my father's first cousin is Judith Resnick. Judith Resnick was the astronaut that one of the astronauts that passed away in the Challenger disaster. She was
Mm.
also among the first women. She wasn't Sally Ride, but one of the first women in space. And it's always been in our family this space connection. So I was really interested to talk to Kathy Sullivan, and it was really fascinating. Really, she's really a brilliant person. Really fascinating interview. Yeah, she mentioned, like, first of all, she mentioned that I asked her, like, what was the most interesting thing she'd seen, and she said, I would have thought, like, being in space. She said it was her recently when she went underwater. There was this. She was in a submarine, and there was this underground volcano, and and it made a lava lake, and it's underwater. So you think, like, it's underwater, like, you don't really see too much. She said that this is the most amazing scene of seeing this lake coming up underwater, and how it would come up and then turn into molten rock. She said it was like the most surreal experience she's ever seen. Even seeing the Earth from space and doing a spacewalk. So that was very interesting to me. In terms of, like, advice, so she said a profound thing. She said, every a hammer sees. I'm kind of paraphrasing it, I'm saying it wrong, but a hammer sees everything as a nail. Everything's a nail to bang on, meaning that if you have a certain way of seeing things, and your tool is your hammer, so you always, the way you solve it is to bang it down. But she learned with NASA, and learned on her team in NASA that NASA had a certain culture of how to solve problems, but having a new perspective, having a woman's perspective, or having diverse perspectives, let them look at it. Maybe this nail doesn't really need a hammer. Maybe it needs another tool. Maybe there's a different approach. And that was a great example, a great analogy to me of the importance of having diverse experiences, diverse ways of looking at things to solve a problem, because sometimes you don't need to bang it down. Sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes it'll cause more harm than good. So that was a profound. That stuck with me. That was a profound lesson. The truth is, it's really hard. It's hard to single out. I get this question a lot. Hard to single out a particular interview because there's so many. It really that's part of what I've been very interested in, is that our platform is about helping people share empowering ideas. Almost everybody from prominent leaders to regular people, they could share empowering ideas, and you don't really need to be a famous person to share inspiring ideas. So, and I've read ideas that were normal people like me, very, very uplifting, and people that are very famous, share things that are flat and intuitive. So, I'm continually impressed by things that I read. I'm
Yeah.
continually.
I imagine, the only way I can relate is of course, every person that comes to this podcast, I consider inspirational, but sometimes I invite someone thinking the conversation is going to go inspire in one direction, and then it ends up inspiring in a completely different direction. And even sometimes in a more powerful way that, when I invite someone that is an expert on a specific subject. So that has been also, to me, I can definitely relate to that. And I know I don't want to, let's say, abuse your time, because I know you're a busy man. But, because this podcast is called Back to Basics, and you're a man of a religious man, which I admire. I think spirituality is such a big component in the human being. So I'm looking forward to hearing when times have been tough, and you say, yeah, there was a time I made a career change because my family was growing. I'm sure there was a stress component there. And there are times where not everything is great, even if people think that everything is great. How do you stay true to your nature, to what's important, to what makes you tick?
Excellent question. So, I'll tell you some of the, there's a famous saying from Dr. Stephen Covey that you have to put your big rocks in first. Like, basically the analogy is, if you have a big glass, if you put in the sand first, the small rocks, then you don't have room for the big rocks. But if you first put in the big rocks, then the sand can filter in around it. And the point is that in your day, you have to first schedule in the most important things. So I'll tell you a few things that I do no matter what, that have really helped keep me centered and inspired. Number one, I think I've always had dinner with my family. I don't think we've almost never ate dinner separately. We always eat together. So breakfast and lunch, people are in school or whatever, but dinner we're always together. I think that's it's such an important thing. Often we have this the ritual that we do at dinner is we go around the table, and I'm blessed that I have six daughters and a son.
Oh, oh,
So
wow. Big
I'm very
family.
blessed.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's
That's
again,
why you had a career change now.
that's also why I much of my writing is about women who are empowering, who are inspiring. So often people say you always support women. I say I every day, single day, I support seven women every single day. I literally
Yes.
support seven
That's
women.
why you see there was something because the way you spoke about your wife, you definitely have an admiration for the opposite sex. So
Uh, and again, my son is
you're
outnumbered.
you're the
But
minority in your house. You can relate.
exactly, yeah. So one thing we do is, and fun. My one of my daughters, my young, like my third youngest, she's like in charge of this. We go around the table and we say what kindness has been done to us today. What kindness either has someone done to them, or what did the Almighty do to them? That they feel grateful for. And it's just a wonderful ritual. Like you go and everyone shares. It changes the whole energy of the meal. That's one thing is I always eat dinner with the family. It just it's so important today with the ability to connect to each other instead of being connected to the network.
Hmm. Yes.
So that's one thing. And another thing is that I every morning I wake up at 6 o'clock. I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I get up and make coffee, and I sit on the couch with my wife, and we study together. We study like a small book. We read from a book. It's a book about being optimistic and being hopeful, and just the act of sitting together on the couch in the morning, reading, drinking coffee, and studying, like growing intellectually and emotionally together has really been great. So we've been doing that for I don't know, maybe 10 years,
Hmm.
and it's been really really amazing. So every morning, I study partner, a friend that I study with. We study for about an hour a day, and that keeps my mind sharp. It helps me grow. It helps me. So by having learning every single by building and learning every single day, like building into my schedule, has really helped me to gives me that anchor.
Mm, yeah, no, that's why I knew you were going to be a great guest because it's hard, and in your case, I think you've had it, as part of who you are early on. And so you're very well anchored. And there's other people that have come on the show and everybody like struggles that they go away, they back into meditation because at the end of the day, it's all about the same. That's why I say a lot of the spirituality boils down to just meditate, think, reflect, be grateful. I mean, the basics, right? And once you incorporate those in your life, you really feel much better.
100%. Actually, I'll add, it really relates to what you just said. So usually after breakfast, I do this almost every single day. I take about a half-hour walk with my wife. We go for a walk. We usually leave our phones home, and we go
Mhm.
for a walk. We go walk. We have like a route, and we just. So I find that walking together with my spouse, my wife, is so helpful because number one, you're in nature. You're outside. You're moving, and number two, you're able to talk without any distraction. There's no one else there, no phone, no, kids aren't there. It's just being able to talk and communicate. And it's when you're going for a half hour walk and you can't just go, you can't stop. You have to finish a conversation. You have to. It's like this built-in, locked-in time to talk, and it can't be interrupted. And that's been so valuable. The ability to. So like, I recommend to anyone who gets married, I tell them make sure to take a walk with your spouse because it's exercise, it's emotional health, and relationship health, intellectual health. It has all the benefits.
Oh
So
no, that's great, and I totally agree. And I'm in telecommunications, so part of why when I first had this idea is like I push connection on one end of my life, right? It's connected everywhere, bringing connectivity everywhere, but then at the same time being connectivity to human beings, and it's such a big conflict, that what you just said is very very valuable that once you leave your phone behind and you realize that you can leave and life goes on and the world goes on. And if there was that urgent thing that you thought you had to attend to, but it happened and you weren't there, still the one went on without you, right?
sure. I'll
So,
tell you one other related thing. Also, you reminded me. I about 5 years ago, I decided that I was going to
Okay. Well, I love the flip phone.
And I don't have it on me, but I could basically, yeah, that's been an amazing thing because I can have almost every app that I need. I can have it on the computer, and I don't need to have every app with me every single second. And I find that I would get overwhelmed with emails and messages, and it would make me feel anxious. And to me, that's been a great life enhancer, the ability to upgrade my smartphone for a wise phone.
Well, and then I have to say, because I've been interacting with you now for a few months, and you're very good at, at responding. And that doesn't mean, because I think we confuse with immediate response with responding. And people say, oh, but I have to respond. And sometimes I say, if it's not happening in the next 24 hours, don't expect that response. We also set the boundaries. And I think whatever you establish for yourself, I can attest that you've been very successful because we didn't know each other and we had never met in person yet. You always have found the time to respond to my messages and be kind. And so I think that people confuse that sometimes. Like I have to have my phone because otherwise people cannot reach me. So good for you. And to end, is there anything exciting? I mean, a lot of exciting things going on with you, I know, but is there anything, that you want to share with us? You have an open microphone, any initiative that you're working on, anything on your bucket list? I want to give you an open platform to share anything you consider exciting.
So kind. I wish I had time to think of the right thing. But I'll share the first thing that came to mind. And I recently, it's a dream of mine that I have. Dream of mine is one day to write a book about how we can improve our life with humility by being more humble. I think that so much of our society, and the truth is I'm a part of it, and that's part of my business. So much of society is about aggrandizing people, making people famous, and the pursuit of when a person pursues fame, when a person pursues being famous, ultimately it's like drinking salt water. You can never be famous enough. You never be famous enough. You like drink salt water, you need more and more, you need more, and it never quenches. It never quenches it. I think that humility is to think that things don't have to go my way. The world doesn't revolve around me. That there are other people in the world, and that I'm not someone's lord. I can't lord over anybody. And I think that the more humble we are, the more we can be humble. That we can be less stressed when things don't go our way. We'll treat other people better. We'll be less offended. We'll be less threatened by people. I think that like the word humility is you almost never hear it in the culture. But it's something that we have leaders that are the opposite. That pursue the opposite of that. I think though that's something that I'd like to put back into the vernacular, put back into the world. How humility can actually help our life. We'll all be nicer to each other and be less jealous of each other if we can be more humble and more humble. And humility doesn't have anything to do with humiliation. Humiliation, again, they have similar etymologies, but humility simply just means I'm not the boss. I'm the boss. There are other people in the world, and things don't have to go my way. Things don't have to go my way.
Well, that's exciting. And I can say you practice what you preach. And I think that's a great book to write and a great book to read. I definitely think that shouldn't be that hard for you because you have so much content and so many ideas. Just with what you share, I could say you have already 4 or 5 chapters in your mind already. So just finding the time, right?
Sure. Yeah, sure. It's finishing. I'm good at starting things, but finishing until the end takes discipline, and so
but now you set it on back to basics. So now you are really manifesting it more intentionally than ever. So I'm pretty sure I'll purchase that book in the near future. So Yitzi, it's been great to have you on Back to Basics. You're really, truly an inspiration. I've enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure that everybody listening to you today has been left with something to think about and reflect upon.
You're so nice, Leticia. It's really a pleasure and an honor to meet you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too. Thank you.
And until the next time.